Hello Internet, I'm Raptor7717 here to bring you a review of this pen real quick. This is a Noodler's Nib Creeper Flex pen. Really cheap pen for flexible nibs, and you'll see what a flex nib is in a minute, but you can probably understand what that is just by hearing it. It is a fountain pen, so we'll start without taking the cap off first. We have nothing on the top. The clip here says Noodler's Ink because it is the Noodler's Ink Company, not the Noodler's Pen Company. There's a pretty simple silver band. You have an ink window that is slightly tinted. I don't know if it's tinted on all the models, but the black one it is. And you can't see it back here, but there's a piston mechanism here that you can turn, and you will see me operate that in a minute. You unscrew the cap. It's not a click-on cap. And you get to see your nib. There's a little other band there, the section here. Let's see if you can get that in focus. Focus, there we go. Section's pretty smooth, tapers slightly, not very much, and you have the threads way back up here. You'd probably hold it about there so your fingers are safely away from the threads. Even if you hold it about in the middle, your fingers aren't in the threads. If you for some reason like to hold your pen back up here, then you'll feel the threads, but you won't feel them too much. They're very soft threads. Anyway, the nib here says Noodler's Ink on it as well, if it ever focuses. Focus. 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 Yes. Well, it's upside down. It says Noodler's Ink this way. Noodler's Ink. You can't see that because it's not focusing. Anyway, the thing about this pen is it is a flex nib, like I said, and what that means is the tines are made to separate, sort of like that. See? Of course, they're not meant to do it against the finger. They're meant to do it against a piece of paper. But another interesting thing about this pen, real quick, is should you want to adjust the flow, I'm going to show you this before I fill the pen just because it's easier. Should you want to adjust the flow, you simply take your fingers, and you can put them here, or you could do what I'm doing and use a paper towel and put it around the nib like that, and then pull, and out comes the nib and feed with some ink on it because I didn't clean it very well. And you can align these two, they separate, just like that, and you can align them however you want, and you can get more flex or more ink flow based on that. So you kind of have to balance, because too little ink flow means that you'll get railroading, and you'll see what railroading is in a second. You'll always get railroading, but you can get too much railroading with too little ink flow and too much flex. But with too little flex, you don't get, well, enough flex, and so there's no real point to the flex nib. I'm trying to talk and put this back in at the same time. I'm not the best at putting this back in the first place. Just a minute. Get ink all over my fingers. You kind of have to align it and then just hold it like that and then shove that all back in. Okay, wipe my fingers off. Okay, and now we're going to fill the pen. So what you do is you take this back end here and you unscrew it. You unscrew it all the way. And if you can see that, there's a piston moving there through the ink window. You can see it moving. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take your ink. I am using Higgins fountain pen India. Generally you shouldn't use India inks, but this is a specific fountain pen type of India, which I find works fairly well. So you're going to submerge your nib entirely, and then you're just going to screw that cap back all the way down, and then you can unscrew it a little bit and screw it back to make sure you fill your maximum amount. And you can see right here, you can no longer see the ink window. You couldn't see it because I held it away, but you can no longer see the ink window because it is filled. I think shut my ink cap, my ink real quick. And kind of wipe the nib off there on the paper towel. Okay, and I usually wouldn't use paper this nice just for a writing sample, which I'm going to do, but since this is a flex nib, it puts a lot of ink down on the page, and we'll see if I can get you in just a bit closer, and we'll write with it. Okay, here we are right down on the paper with my light kind of being blocked. This pen does post, by the way, but you can't post it too tightly and then turn, otherwise you'll end up turning the mechanism and you will spit ink everywhere. But it's pretty nice to use posted because it doesn't weigh much. It's made out of plastic, or resin really. And so this is a Noodler's pen. Noodler's Flex. It is a flex pen. The ink, as you saw, was Higgins Black. This paper is Clairefontaine. So yeah, it's pretty smooth paper, not very absorbent, so it will smear more, so I'm going to try and not do that. And I think I'll just write the alphabet for you. Or some of it. K-L-M-N-O-P, yeah, it'll work, whatever. I did EF twice because I'm, smart. Let's do the quick brown fox. The quick, because that has all the letters of the alphabet in it. And it jumps over the lazy dog. That Z looks kind of like a Y. It should be like that, whatever. Anyway, you can see kind of how it writes. Now what this pen does really well, as I said before, is flex. So this right now is kind of writing in a fine. I adjusted it so that it's more fine, but you can get it. So here is a fine line, and if you push down, you can see those tines flex out, and you get railroading. Let's see. Get the ink flowing. See, this is what I was talking about when I said you can, but come on. Come on, pen. Sorry about my lighting. There we go. Nice thick line. Of course now you can't go too thick because my feed is a bit too far apart from my nib there. So when you are adjusting it, you want to make sure you don't adjust it too much. But what you can get there, that means you can get sort of a nice line variation coming down. And I'm getting entirely too much railroading. But you can see how that's pretty nice. Now, this can be used for a calligraphy-like effect, or you can use it to say, draw a face. So we have, or something. Something like that. Use it to draw a person. They have a beard. See? So you can kind of get a bit of different line flavor out of it because of that, but you can also use it to write kind of scripty words, etc. As you can see, railroading does detract a bit, but you can learn to get past the railroading. It writes quite nicely. Wow, well that was a jump cut. Sorry, my camera ran out of memory. Isn't technology wonderful? The answer is yes, until it runs out of memory. So yeah, anyway, you have this flexibility in the nib. Now, how does it perform, other than like it flexes, which is more than a lot of nibs do. A lot of nibs are obviously very hard, otherwise a flex nib wouldn't be a special thing. It's not scratchy at all, but it does have a lot of feedback, which some people like, some people don't like. It's also not the kind of feedback that's just, you know, you're writing. It's more of a, it's definitely more of a scratchy sort of feedback, but it's not really too terribly scratchy. It does make an indent in the paper. Well, of course it's not the best nib. It's a pretty cheap pen. It's a $15 pen. If you were expecting, I don't know, a perfect nib for $15, you need to adjust your expectations. The flexing is good, and it's got that nice customizable aspect, although you can't customize it too much, otherwise it won't work, which is a bit of a problem. But even then, it's still a really nice pen. It's nice to fool around with. If you actually know calligraphy, you probably use dip pens or whatever, which are better for calligraphy purposes, obviously, because they're specially designed for it, and they have specialty nibs. But this is alright. It does some calligraphy-like things. It's also really good if you're an artist and like using the smoothness of a fountain pen. That it is definitely much smoother than, say, a ballpoint pen, and it's got, I guess, it's easier to use than, say, a felt tip pen, like a technical pen, or just a regular felt tip pen. It's got the line variation that those don't have, and it's just a smoother writing experience. You feel like you don't have to bear down as much. Anyway, it's a really neat pen. I like it a lot. I use it a lot, although it's not my most used pen. It is a fairly recent addition to my collection, so there is that. Anyway, if that's the pen you're looking for, it's really cheap. If you want to just start with a fountain pen, you might not want to start with a flex nib version. They do have some solid nib versions I know of, so you can get those as well. But it is a very good starter pen. Even with the flex nib, you can just use it so that you don't flex the nib. You also have to be careful to not flex it too much, or you'll bend the tines. Anyway, it's a really good pen, really good value. I like it a lot, and you can get a lot of interesting things from it. So yeah, bye.